A flurry of trades by the Philadelphia Eagles before the 2025 NFL trade deadline is continued proof that Howie Roseman is one of the best GMs in the history of sports. I'll tell you why coming up on today's edition of Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this Monday edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Louie DiBiase. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the entire app. Being a Philadelphia Eagles fan, being a fan of a team that is GM'd by Howie Roseman is a lot of fun. Like the news, the transactions, the trades, they just do not stop. Jaire Alexander comes in from the Baltimore Ravens this weekend. Jaylen Phillips coming over from the Miami Dolphins this morning for a 2026 third-round pick. We also were already breaking down last week the trade of Michael Carter to the Philadelphia Eagles from the New York Jets, one of the better slot corners in the NFL over the last 3 seasons. They just don't stop. And when you look at the Carter trade, the Phillips trade, the Alexander trade, while none of these moves might actually work, they might all be flops. Howie Roseman's track record at the trade deadline, it's not really great. I mean, Jaire Alexander in 2017 was a move that obviously helped them propel them into becoming a Super Bowl champion instead of just a contender in 2017. But you look at 2018 with Golden Tate, kind of depends on how you look at that move, but it didn't hit the way that they thought it would for a third-round pick. You bring in Genard Avery before a deadline, Robert Quinn, Kevin Byard, the list goes on and on. And so normally this kind of move doesn't work with Howie. We'll see what happens with Carter, with Alexander, with Phillips. There's a reason all 3 of these players were available to begin with. But even if these trades do not work, it still shows why Howie Roseman is the best at what he does for many different reasons. Number one, it shows off his aggression. He is going to do all he can to set the Philadelphia Eagles up for another Super Bowl run, filling all the holes he can, giving his coaches options, potential solutions to what look like holes on the roster. I mean, this guy started the trade era back in 2016, and nobody uses it to their advantage more than him. He's already made 5 in-season trades, and that's not even including all of the trades he made in August and during the 2025 NFL draft. I love having a GM that does what Howie Roseman does and makes no excuses, that says we're going to go for it. We are going to be aggressive, adding talent, and if we miss on a guy, so be it. We're going to move on and find the solution. Like, we're not going to stop adding to this roster and trying to make it the best it can be. And there's a lot of general managers that don't do that. They sit on their hands and say, this is what we have. This is what we're working with 2025. They kind of get complacent and are stubborn and say, we'll see what happens next offseason, free agency, the draft. Like, that's not Howie Roseman. This guy is going to go down as the most active general manager by far in the history of the National Football League. And that kind of aggression has allowed the Eagles to win 2 Super Bowls in under a decade and be at 3 of them in under a decade. So that's a huge reason for me that these 3 trades show off what makes Howie Roseman so great. But it's not just that he's aggressive. I think also these moves show his self-awareness. Like I said, he isn't going to double down on a sunk cost, a mistake. If he knows he did not do enough at a position, he is going to do all he can to add solutions to the problem. He's not going to be like, Buffalo Bills general manager Brandon Beane goes on the air after the draft in 2025. And my brother is the morning show host in Buffalo. And Brandon Beane went after my brother saying, you can't have it all. Howie Roseman's brain does not work that way. There's a lot of GMs out there that are stubborn, that realize, I made a mistake signing this player, drafting this guy, trading for this guy, and they wait way too long to see if it's going to work because they almost don't want to look stupid. They don't want to look wrong, and if they make another move, they admit their mistake. Howie Roseman And maybe it's because he almost has a lifetime contract with Jeffrey Lurie as the owner in Philadelphia, but that guy instantly moves on if he realizes, oh, yeah, Jalen Reagor, not the pick. Let's move on. Like, that is Howie Roseman, and that's what he's done this year. Like, oh, I didn't do enough at cornerback. Keely Ringo is not the answer. Clearly, Adoree Jackson was not a good value signing in free agency. I don't even know what I have in the Jacorian Bennett trade. So what does he do? He brings in multiple options for Vic Fangio to find out if any of these guys can be solutions to cornerback. Michael Carter, Jaire Alexander. Do what you want now with Cooper DeJean. You want to play him on the inside. You want to play him on the outside. I'm giving you options. The edge rusher position. I think they were going to be okay with Nolan Smith, with Jalyx Hunt, with Josh Uche and Brandon Graham. I thought that was a fine group of four with, now Azeez Ojulari's on IR, but you had Ojulari potentially as an option and Patrick Johnson. But Howie Roseman said, that's good, but it's not great. It's not good enough. I didn't do a good enough job this offseason, so I'm going to trade a third-round pick for a former first-rounder in Jaylen Phillips, who has a track record of success with my elite defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. Like, he's willing to adjust and to learn on the fly and to admit his mistakes. And I think all three of these moves, these trades over the last week, are proof of that. I think it also shows off his creativity. He uses the league rules to his advantage. Like, he understands that Jaylen Phillips next year, for instance, is going to be a UFA. What does he do? He gives up a third-round pick in 2026, which, yeah, in a vacuum seems like an overpay for a rental player. It feels very reminiscent to the trade for Golden Tate in 2018. But when you think about it, when you add context, the Eagles had so many draft picks that they have the flexibility to give up a 3 to overpay. But when you realize it, the rules of the NFL, you're going to get a comp pick back, likely, if Jaylen Phillips has a really good end-of-the-year run and a good playoff stretch, like Josh Sweat did last year and Milton Williams did. And if he doesn't become a long-term core piece of Philadelphia, and let's say he goes out there and gets a $20+ million a year contract with another market, then guess what Howie Roseman's going to get back? Likely the same kind of draft value that he gave up for Jaylen Phillips. Like, he might get Jaylen Phillips for free based on the comp pick formula in 2027. He might get rewarded, depending on what happens, of course. It's not set in stone, but he could get a third-round pick back. So he understands the league rules and uses it to his advantage. Like, he understands that Josh Sweat, Milton Williams got him third, fourth-round comp picks next year. Jaylen Phillips could do exactly the same. Plus all the other comp picks you're likely going to get back from last year's UFA pool. It just feels like everything has a plan to it. He works around the confines that the league has set up that other teams use as an excuse, but Howie Roseman gets creative with it. And I don't want to say he bends the rules, but I think he uses certain things that the NFL has set up to his advantage. I think he has really just beautifully set up this team to have the long-term cake of the future and to eat the short-term one as well. Like, because he has built this war chest of draft picks since the Carson Wentz trade, and it's allowed him to be aggressive in the short term, it also doesn't make him sacrifice the long-term draft ammunition to build the future cores. Like, he had 13 draft picks next year, and he's still in line with all the trades he's made this year in 2025. He's still in line for 8 or 9 next year. And again, we'll see what happens with the comp picks. It could be more. Knowing how Howie Roseman is so active during drafts, trading up, trading down, he'll likely collect more ammunition as well. He's done such a good job taking advantage of what seemed like one of the worst moments in franchise history, having to trade Carson Wentz, but it has allowed him to build this 5 to 6 year plethora of draft picks that allows him, again, to maximize this current championship window, but to also extend it. Again, he can have the long-term cake and the short-term cake. And I think that's something that Howie Roseman has really evolved, over time in his career at doing, is sometimes in the past, he would kind of risk the future for the sake of the short term. Then there were times it was like he wouldn't be aggressive enough in the short term for the sake of the future. He has blended those concepts perfectly together now, where the Eagles, again, they can afford to do what they did today with Jaylen Phillips more so than anybody else in the NFL. And I just think, again, breaking it all down, we're witnessing one of the greatest general managers, not just in the history of the NFL, but in the history of sports, doing what he does best. And I really think you should just sit back and appreciate it. Like, even if it does not work with Michael Carter, with Jaire Alexander, with Jalyn Phillips, what Howie Roseman is doing this week is proof that he is the best GM in football right now. And I think one day he's headed to Canton. Like, give that man a gold jacket. It really is like the golden era of Eagles football we're in right now is kind of the Howie Roseman dynasty. He has 2 rings. I bet he gets more before his career is over, and this week is proof of why he'll likely get more because he never stops trying to improve the team. He is so creative. He has perfectly built this team for the short term and the long term. He's self-aware. Like, he has it all, and that hasn't always been the case with Howie Roseman, but he truly has evolved into just an unstoppable machine running the Philadelphia Eagles franchise. I do want to get into specifically the Jaylon Phillips trade coming up and how this does fit into the short-term plans for the Eagles defense and the long-term. So we'll get into that coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics, they can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process so much smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. This is normally one of my favorite times of the year, covering the Eagles right before the NFL trade deadline, because you know more than any team in football, the Philadelphia Eagles are always looking to make a move because Howie Roseman is their general manager, and Howie has made 3 trades in under a week. We covered last week them bringing in Michael Carter from the New York Jets, trading for Jaire Alexander on Saturday from the Baltimore Ravens. We will get into that trade in the third segment. Then this morning, he brings in Miami Dolphins edge rusher Jalyn Phillips for a 3rd-round pick. And I think Jalyn Phillips likely will be a rental player. He is an unrestricted free agent in 2026. He is only 26 years old. Has a pretty good resume through 5 years in Miami. Had a lot of success with Vic Fangio as a former first-round talent. Is really coming on this year. Over the last couple games, I mean, he has 10 pressures the last 2 weeks, a 19.3 win rate, an 18.1% pressure percentage. Both of those would lead Eagles edge rushers and actually the entire Eagles defensive line. 3 sacks on the season. I think that guy will likely command a big payday this offseason, especially if he plays really well for the Eagles down the stretch in meaningful games in the playoffs, potentially in another Super Bowl run. Jalyn Phillips likely will be a 3rd-round rental player that gets you a 3rd or 4th-round comp pick in 2027 when he signs a big, $20+ million a year contract. I think that's the most likely outcome, and I still love that for the Eagles' current situation. I like that Howie Roseman made a short-term play to maximize the window they're in. He had the flexibility to do it because of all of the draft ammunition he's had last year, this year, in 2027. He's going to get third and fourth round picks back from the comp formula of last year's free agent class. Like, he had the optionality to be a little over aggressive, bringing in Jaylen Phillips, and now to add a player into what I already thought was a strong four-man rotation. And now this is the deepest the Eagles have been on the edge in quite some time. You're going to have Nolan Smith coming back from injury, Jalylan Phillips coming in, Brandon Graham, Jalyx Hunt, and Josh Uche. So you got Smith and Phillips likely as your top two guys. Jalyx Hunt now is one of the best third edge rushers in all of football. Josh Uche is a great fourth fastball. And then Brandon Graham is like your fifth guy at this point. I mean, the edge rusher group looks so much better for this playoff run in 2025, but he doesn't have to necessarily be just a rental player, just a solution for this year, and then eventually he becomes a comp pick. I think that's the most likely outcome, but he is only 26 years old. He has played for Vic Fangio in the past and has had a lot of success. The Eagles, I really do think they want a third long-term piece at this position next to Nolan Smith to complement Jalyx Hunt. And I think Jaylen Phillips could be that guy. Again, he has really been heating up. 10 pressures over the last 2 games. His win rate and pressure percentage are higher than any Eagle. You know, the Dolphins were using him as an inside rusher too, taking on centers and guards. He was having a lot of success in that area against the Atlanta Falcons, against the Carolina Panthers. I think Phillips is a guy that I could see actually signing a contract extension with the Eagles. I could see them saying, this is a guy that's worth investing a big contract in for the future. He's young, in his prime, familiar with the coach. He's still getting better and better. He's getting healthier too, although he is an injury risk, has had some serious leg injuries in his career. I think he is still an ascending player, plays a premier position that the Eagles still need long-term pieces at for the future. I kind of like that this move does give them some optionality for the future, where it's not just a third-round pick for a rental like the Kevin Byard trade of 2023 or the Golden Tate trade of 2018. I think Phillips, again, is likely going to be, a similar type of guy that has a similar fate as those players going from the Eagles to somewhere else. But this kind of could be the Jaire Alexander move, where it really helps you right now, but it also could help you in the future. If Jaire Alexander did not get injured in 2018, I think the Eagles planned on him being the workhorse running back for at least a couple years there. We knew his knees were not going to age well, but I think they planned on Ajayi, who was in his prime at the time, similar age to Jaylen Phillips now, being someone that was there for multiple years, helping them compete for championships. So I like that approach to this, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Phillips comes in and maybe is your best pass rusher. But Jalyx Hunt is going to have something to say about that. He's been getting better and better every week. The best defensive player on the field the last 2 wins. Nolan Smith coming off IR. He had a really good start to the season, and he wasn't even 100%. Josh Uche has been one of the more underrated pass rushers off the edge in football this year. You add Phillips to that equation and Brandon Graham coming out of retirement. Like I said, this is the deepest edge group that they've had in a while. Is it as good as 2022 was or 2024? Maybe not, but to have 5 or 6 legitimate options where Patrick Johnson was giving you some meaningful, really positive defensive reps over the last month, and he's I don't know if is he going to even be a healthy scratch at this point. I don't know if he'll dress on game days. What's Brandon Graham's role going to be now coming out of retirement? Howie Roseman, like I said, he just gives his team, his coaches, too many options where it's a good problem to have. There is no excuses now. There is plenty of talent on both sides of the ball where there should be some sort of solution. Maybe none of these guys, Michael Carter, Jaire Alexander, Jaylen Phillips, maybe none of them turn into stars. I do think Phillips is the most talented player the Eagles have gotten from a trade deadline since Jaire Alexander in 2017. And I do think he'll be a big hit. But even if none of them pan out to a star level, I do think a couple of these players will at least be guys you can win with, and they will definitely be roster upgrades over who you've been putting out there so far through the first 8 games of the season. So I really like the Jaylen Phillips trade. Honestly, I preferred Jermaine Johnson. My eyes were on Trey Hendrickson, Bradley Chubb. Those felt more realistic to me. But Jaylen Phillips, when you look at the field of who was going to be available, this is probably a top 2 option, again, because of the age, the versatility, the past production as well, but also the future production you can get from this guy. Out of Jermaine Johnson, this might be the best case scenario for what Howie Roseman could have did on the defensive line. I am curious, though, Jaire Alexander coming in this Saturday from the Baltimore Ravens. I am curious what the plan is with Alexander, and I think it does have to do with directly what they want out of Cooper DeJean the rest of the year. And I'll tell you what I mean coming up right here on Lockdown. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast, we are brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook. It's FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a much bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. The Philadelphia 76ers right now, first place through 6 games in the Eastern Conference. Bet on the 76ers. Basketball is fun to watch again in the city of brotherly love, and you can bet on it all at FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So take the over on points for Tyrese Maxey or VJ Edgecombe. I mean, those two in the backcourt have been so much fun to watch. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Guys, make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL podcast. In the morning, you got Tyler, the madman Roland, giving you a shot of football espresso to get your day started right. Then Tony Wiggins, the barber, takes you into the barber shop during the afternoon to talk some ball, talk shop. You can find both shows Monday through Friday, 2 episodes a week, wherever you get Locked On NFL and, of course, Locked On Eagles. 3 trades to talk about before the 2025 NFL trade deadline from Howie Roseman. Michael Carter coming over from the Jets. Jalylan Phillips from the Miami Dolphins. Jaire Alexander also coming in this past Saturday from the Baltimore Ravens, a former All-Pro, Pro Bowl corner from the Green Bay Packers, former first-round pick. Now, is Alexander who he was in Green Bay a couple years ago, was one of the best inside-out versatile corners in football that could shadow a team's #1 receiver, could play in the slot, could play on the boundary? No, I don't think he's that guy anymore. Although his advanced analytics over the last couple seasons, it's not bad. But, I mean, he's been a healthy scratch for the Baltimore Ravens this year. He's only appeared in 2 games. So, no, he's not that guy anymore. There's a reason the Eagles were able to get him for, the swapping of day 3 picks. But what I will say about Alexander coming in is when you combine this trade with Michael Carter coming in last week, I like that Howie Roseman is giving Vic Fangio basically the flexibility to do whatever he wants with Cooper DeJean. Because Michael Carter coming in, to me, said, it's obvious now that Cooper DeJean is going to play on the outside. Because Michael Carter is not a boundary corner. And I don't think you make that trade unless you're planning on moving DeJean, or at least it's an idea, it's a thought bubble, that Coop plays on the outside. But now that you bring in Alexander, who has played a lot of slot corner in his career, but he's also played on the boundary, now again, the name of the game, the theme of today's show for Howie Roseman and for these coaches is the ability to have options. It's optionality. Now with Alexander in the fold, you could do whatever you want with Cooper DeJean if you think Alexander can still play. I think Alexander is, again, he's a shell of who he used to be, but I think he's an upgrade over Adoree Jackson. I think he's an upgrade of, compared to who Keely Ringo is right now or what Jacorian Bennett could be. I still have no idea what they're getting in Jacorian Bennett, but I think Alexander on the boundary could be an upgrade over those guys. I saw an interesting tweet, actually, that Alexander right now is the same age as Darius Slay when Slay first became an Eagle in 2020. So Alexander's still young. He still has his legs. Yeah, he's had a lot of injuries, but it's not like this guy is a 34-year-old, 35-year-old corner that just doesn't have it anymore. I think Alexander could absolutely, even if he's not an all-pro player, he can be an upgrade over those 3 guys I mentioned, and that could allow you to keep Cooper DeJean in the slot. So they didn't really back themselves into a corner by making multiple trades at this position, where now they can say, may the best man win. Is Michael Carter looking really good in the slot? Cool. Nobody else is winning that outside job. Cooper DeJean, we're pushing you out there for now for 2025. Oh, Carter's not the guy. Cooper DeJean, we want to keep him in the slot, and Alexander looks really good. Boom, Jaire Alexander, you're opposite Quinyon Mitchell. Oh, Keely Ringo's still better than both of these guys, or Jacorian Bennett, or Adoree Jackson. Okay, I guess we'll just keep going with what we had. Although I think Adoree Jackson's going to get placed on injured reserve. Maybe Ringo, maybe Bennett, they take this as fuel, and I doubt it, but maybe those guys are better than Alexander and Carter. It's not like they're both slam dunk studs coming into this defense. But again, Howie Roseman likes to take a lot of darts, throw it at the board, and see what sticks. And when you're an expensive roster like this, I really just think it's good business of taking a lot of shots at former first, second round picks that have had elite seasons before at the NFL level. You're getting them for dirt cheap because they've kind of fallen out of favor with their past team, whether it's because of performance or scheme fit or injury. And you're hoping that in a better support system with a better roster, better coaches, if they can stay healthy, that the investment you made, the guy you're getting, he's going to totally make that trade look like a steal, or the contract. Like Josh Uche is making that investment they made in free agency. I mean, that's pennies on the dollar now. For what they're getting for Uche is so outweighed what they put into it. I mean, they barely put in any money on a no guarantees 1-year deal, and Josh Uche is the 13th overall ranked edge rusher in all of football right now, according to Pro Football Focus. Last year with Mekhi Becton, it was the same type of strategy, and it worked. It doesn't always work, but it's low risk, high reward. Banking on a Michael Carter who had an elite season in the slot in 2023 to maybe get back to that player with the best defensive mind in football, I think that's good business for what they gave up. Jaire Alexander, again, a former all-pro corner that I don't even think has exited his prime yet. You're getting for, swapping day 3 picks as your third cornerback. It's not like you're asking any of these guys to save you, right? It's not like past trade deadline moves where it's, oh, we really need Kevin Byard to be like a core piece. Like, yes, it would be nice if Alexander or Carter panned out. It'd be really nice if Jaylen Phillips ended up being your best pass rusher. But the Eagles do have a lot of other options too. They're trying to find more consistency for their role players. It's not for their core pieces. And so I just think that's good business. And that's what I like about the Alexander trade. I don't know what they're going to get in him. I don't know what they're going to get in Michael Carter. Jaylen Phillips is a legit move. Again, I think he's the most talented deadline acquisition that they've gotten since Jay Ajayi in 2017. But these other two, it's kind of a shot in the dark. But again, I think that's good business because you're not paying a lot for them. They've had elite seasons in the past. Your coaches have a track record of getting the most out of talents. You've done really well in these kind of situations before. And so I just think that's a good move, especially when your roster is really expensive and you don't really want to go, big game hunting, trading away first, second round picks, giving out big contracts because you've kind of already done that with your core. I like that approach a lot. I like the approach Howie Roseman is taking right now. He is being ultra aggressive, and he is really trying to set the Eagles up for a run here to try to repeat as Super Bowl champions. And it's been a fun week to be a Philadelphia Eagles fan and an analyst covering this team. Like, it's never a dull moment. There is always something going on. And hey, the trade deadline's tomorrow. He could still make another move. Like, maybe he trades for a David Njoku at tight end. Maybe he brings in another wide receiver. I don't know, but you never know with Howie Roseman, and this was definitely a lot of fun to talk about for sure. Hit me up on X at LockedOnBirds, at DiBiase LOE. Let me know what you think of these 3 trades, and then we'll see you tomorrow for another edition of Locked On Eagles. Thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.